I want to tell you a story that has impacted me as a person and inspired me greatly. This is a journey of me playing The Legend of Zelda. It all started when I was young. I was gifted with a life-changing device that I would have to share with my older brother, the Game Boy Color, and soon after received a life-changing game I wouldn't have to share, The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages. What really made this game for me were the cutscenes at the beginning. Aside from that, all I did was just cut grass and generally have no idea what I was doing. So I would delete my file and redo everything I already knew how to do, over and over, because I thought it was fun. Most importantly though, this game planted a seed of interest for a series I didn't go any further into until much later. So let's fast forward a few years. I now own a Nintendo 2DS. I've been absolutely milking Mario Kart 7 and Kirby Triple Deluxe for about a year now, because these have been the only games I actually owned on the system. So it was absolutely time for a new game. It was time I re-entered the Legend of Zelda series. So I got myself a game that would last me hours and change my life forever. First off, it was so refreshing just to have a brand new game, but I had no idea just how beautiful this game would be. And you know, that was the first thing I noticed, and I still had no idea what this game would be about. Because I had never seen any videos on it or anything, so I was just going in completely blind. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have it any other way. I will never forget that. I felt so satisfying the first time I got the sword, because the game just... And that feeling of excitement when you enter the Great Deku Tree, and like the first time I ran into one of the Skulltulas was probably like one of the first scary video game experiences I've had. I remember just like dropping my 2DS on the couch and jumping up and being like, no. Oh, and that feeling of dread you get when you grow up to older Link, and then Castle Town is now just in shambles. But it wasn't just the mechanics or the story or the visuals that made this game for me. It was everything combined that transformed this video game into more than just a game. It wasn't something I just played, it was something I experienced. It felt kind of real on some level, and I genuinely cared for the people I met and had a consistent sense of drive and curiosity that wanted me to just keep moving forward throughout the game. It was like a world that I stepped into, unlike anything else I had ever experienced in a video game, and it felt alive. From this moment on, I absolutely considered myself a Zelda fan. So let's move on now to my 13th birthday. My brother knew exactly how I felt about the Zelda series now, so he got me not one, but 2 Zelda games, that was incredible. That was a wonderful feeling. And not only that, both of these games end up being like top 3 Zelda games of all time. One of them being my favorite Zelda game of all time. That being The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds and Wind Waker. So how does one handle 2 never-before-experienced masterpieces at one time, you may ask? Well, I had no idea, so I just played them both, and I decided I preferred Link Between Worlds at the time over Wind Waker, so I forgot about Wind Waker for a while. I mean, it was a beautiful game, and it had great music, as far as I could tell, but A Link Between Worlds really, it had it all. It was portable, it was easy to not get stuck, beautiful, fast-paced. It was satisfying to play, and oh my goodness, the fact that it's just having a Zelda game where it's easy to not get stuck was just groundbreaking for me at the time. I was constantly running into roadblocks in Ocarina of Time, which was very frustrating, and obviously I never got anywhere in Oracle of Ages. But I always knew where to go in this game, and it just completely removed that frustration factor. So I think the best way to describe this is just like, my experience with this game is just with like the analogy of a pool. If Oracle of Ages was me dipping my toes in, and Ocarina of Time was me learning to swim, then this game would be me, like the first time I really got to just dive into the water and swim around, It was an absolute blast. It has so much creativity throughout it, and it has so much of what Ocarina of Time has to create that unforgettable experience. But this time, just every single aspect of the game was just fun. And I can't emphasize enough just how creative this game is and just how, full of charm it is. And I never cry. I never cry when playing video games. But this one, I know it almost had me at the end. I didn't cry. But So then, of course, in my excitement, just the amount of joy that I felt from all of these Zelda games, it was now time for me to explore the series more. So I went on to play Link to the Past, Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, which is also like another wonderful one. It's probably, if Link Between, it's kind of tied with Link Between Worlds for me. I don't know which one I like more, but Phantom Hourglass, don't play that one. Minish Cap, Breath of the Wild, Zelda 1. I went back again and tried to play Oracle of Ages, and I actually got like 3 dungeons in, and I stopped it because I got stuck. But yeah, I had so much fun looking through all of these games that I just had never experienced before. It was a real treat. But this whole time there was one Zelda game that I kind of had been actively avoiding because I had only really heard bad things about it, and that is Zelda Skyward Sword. It didn't seem like a lot of people. I never really found anybody that liked this game, at least not as much as the other ones. But yeah, from the annoying fee system to the motion controls, it really, I was not sold on this game, and I didn't want to even touch on it because my whole Zelda experience to this point had just been so wonderful, aside from Phantom Hourglass or something. But one day, I don't remember how exactly it happened, but I heard, I think I heard a Zelda song, and I was like, man, this one is so good. What is this from? And I saw it was from Skyward Sword, and it's like, whoa. So I checked out the rest of Skyward Sword's soundtrack, and I'm not sure if I can confidently say this, but I think Skyward Sword might just have just about the best soundtrack in the series. But yeah, just finding out about the soundtrack of this game kind of piqued my interest a little bit. It sparked something. And very soon after, Nintendo announced The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD on the Switch, so I just had to get it. I was actually really excited when they announced this, because it was like, oh, I get to see the areas that these songs were from in the game, and it's like I always hear that Skyward Sword has one of the better stories in the series. So I was definitely excited at this point, and best of all, it looked like Nintendo was going to be just fixing all of the problems people had been complaining about on the Switch version of this game. So there was nothing that I was worried about going into playing this game. This was going to be a good Zelda experience that I had never experienced before, and that was very exciting. So I got it day one. I think the first thing I remember thinking about this game when I started playing it was just it actually kind of reminded me of Wind Waker. Keep in mind I hadn't really played Wind Waker all that much at this point, but it was just the whole flying in the sky mechanic kind of reminded me of the boat in Wind Waker, and also just the color, the bright colors in this game. It just felt very Wind Waker-y to me at the time. But I quickly got very invested in this game. I was like, man, this is a great game, and then that quickly ended. So when I first dove down into the first area with the loft wing, it was immediately apparent to me that this little area that I just landed in wasn't at all connected to the rest of the world of Skyward Sword. I was expecting you'd leave the whole claustrophobic town in the clouds and have one of those Hyrule Field experiences where you've completed the intro to the game, so here's your freedom, But when you land in that area, you start to look around, and most of the directions you could go in weren't even programmed into the game, you're at a dead end. So you only have one direction you can go in, and that was forward. See, I remember just how awesome it was to enter Hyrule Field and not even know which direction was forward, and just like feeling just how massive the game was, and I just wanted to explore. But in this game, it just didn't feel like there was anything to explore, because you just have one direction to go in, you know. But this is kind of where I realized that in this game, I think the sky is supposed to be this game's version of Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Field. But honestly, the sky feels so disconnected from the rest of the game, it just feels like a level select screen. You fly around until you find a level you're supposed to enter, and then you're done flying, and you select that area and you drop in. I always think of like a Mario game, like Mario 64, where you like got the castle and then you select a painting. Mario 64 is actually a bad example. Hold on. I don't know. I always think of like a Mario game where you're selecting a level and then you enter the level and it's just point A to point B the whole time in Mario, which like is fine for a Mario game because it's just fun. But in Zelda Skyward Sword, it's not like you have fun movement or anything. You just, I mean, the movement gets the job done, but Zelda has always been about the rest of the stuff, you know, that Skyward Sword just didn't feel like it had. But aside from Phantom Hourglass, this was probably the first time I wanted to stop this Zelda game because I was bored. I wasn't stopping because I was stuck and didn't want to use the internet for help. I didn't stop because I was frustrated with how hard it was. I stopped because even though I knew exactly where to go at all times, it genuinely wasn't interesting enough to keep my attention. Now, I didn't actually completely stop until near the end of the game, and I can definitely say this game isn't all that bad if you give it the time of day. Like, the dungeons were a ton of fun and the characters were silly and stuff. But in the end, it left a bad taste in my mouth, and then it was just a while before I played a Zelda game again. And when I say that, I mean it was like 2 months, but it felt like a little while. So at this point, I was moving into a new house, and it was time for me to break out the old Wii and connect it to the TV. And it had been a while since I last played the Wii, so it was really exciting to turn it on and see all the old stuff. So I wanted to play something, and it was officially time for me to experience Zelda, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. I actually have footage from that night of me starting up the new save file just because I wanted to capture that moment. I remember I think I was eating like chicken and dumplings that night or something. It was like, it had been a really hard, long summer, so it was nice just to sit down on the couch with my GameCube controller and just mess around in Zelda for a little while. And honestly, I thought that was going to be the end of it. Like, I thought I was just going to chill for this night and just kind of play Zelda for a little bit and then turn it off and not turn it on for who knows how long. But when I turned it on and started up that new save file, it was just so refreshing to play this game after Skyward Sword. I didn't realize just how different Skyward Sword was to the other Zelda games, but like the world was open in this game, that it was beautiful, and the thing that captured me the most probably was just the story. So many interesting characters with important roles. There are twists and turns, and the whole time you're not just watching it happen. You are the one living this story and meeting these characters and helping them. And the way the game hooks you is absolutely genius too. Like, you're introduced to your sweet little hometown and your sweet little family. The game lets you get to know the family just enough before your sister gets kidnapped, and she's such a sweet little character. It's honestly like a little jarring to see this happen. So all you want at this point is to get your sister back, and it's absolutely out of your power to do so in this part of the game. So your only option at this point is to turn to the less than ideal, strange group of pirates. And I think this setup on its own is enough to know that things absolutely do not go as planned, but things go so much further than you would expect, and the game it just ends up so perfect. I really wish I could have gone into this game completely blind, but even with some spoilers, this game was just such a touching experience, and it was just a reminder of what I loved so much about the series. And it's just weird to think that I had this game on my shelf for so many years, and I barely touched it, and I turn it on and play it, and it's just like, this is probably like my third favorite Zelda game now, aside from Link Between Worlds and Link's Awakening. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's just like how I would summarize my whole Zelda experience personally. I just felt like sharing it. You know, it's just good fun. The Legend of Zelda is one of those things you can only really experience once. You know, for the first time. It's gonna be different whenever you go back and replay the games and stuff. And everybody obviously has a different experience with it. And it's just an inspiration to me, the whole. But yeah, if you haven't gone and played any Zelda games before yet, I would definitely, or maybe you're interested in the Zelda series because you like Breath of the Wild or something. I know a lot of new fans jumped on with that game. Breath of the Wild is very different from any of the classic Zelda games, so just have that in mind. But I would definitely recommend checking out the older Zelda games. They're absolutely wonderful.